Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to buy a stake in Manchester United with a view to taking full control.
Sheikh Jassim has submitted a fifth improved bid for Manchester United.
Got 24 million quid out of the club about 2 months ago. We've got now a decrepit, rotting stadium. You've got a football project where they haven't got a clue.
This challenge incites conflict. Conflict means catastrophe.
There has been a report yesterday suggesting the Glazers are pausing the takeover.
These owners, since Sir Alex Ferguson, have proven in 10 years they cannot manage a forward-thinking football club. We're now seeing what's happening, and it's a mess, and it cannot continue to go on. It can't.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Devil's Advocate podcast. It's a very special one here this evening. I'm joined by Jack and Matt from the 1958. We're here this evening to talk about the 1958 group. We're here to talk about tomorrow's sit-in protest after the Nottingham Forest game tomorrow. We're also going to chat about the future of the 1958, maybe post Glazer ownership and any other questions you guys do have. First of all, I'd like to welcome Jack and Matt to the show. How's it going, lads? Thanks very much for coming on.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Keane. Busy week for us, but all good.
It's been a very busy week. No, thanks, Keane, for having us on. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks very much, guys. And look, very, very glad to have you on. We've obviously been talking behind the scenes for quite some time, and look, it's great to get you guys on. Obviously, talk about your plans and talk about the work you're doing, because, like, look, I think I speak for many United fans when I say, like, obviously the work you've been doing over the last 2 years has been exceptional in terms of the protests, in terms of the consistency and how relentless it's been. So, I really do appreciate you guys coming on and what you do for our club as well. Jack, first of all, I'm just going to come to yourself just on the formation of the 1958, because we obviously down the years we've seen many protests. Back in 2005 when the Glazers first came in, Manchester United fans have been protesting since then, more or less, against this the disgraceful ownership. But obviously 1958 have come along in the last couple of years, and they've done great work. How did the formation of the group take place? Was this kind of around the time when the Super League was announced?
Good question. And we get asked quite a bit, actually. Yeah, it's actually been 18 months. It's not even been 2 years yet. It's kind of just about 18 months. So, yeah, there's been protests in the past, obviously with the green and gold and everything that's been happening since the Glazer took over back in 2005. But then they just kind of stopped. They literally stopped, and there was nothing between the last protest and what happened with the ESL, which wasn't just about United, of course. It was about the future of football in this country, which the Glazers were, make no mistake about it, they were ringleaders in that. So there was no United fan surprised that the Glazers were heading that up with the other Americans from FSG. So we know only too well what they're all about. So, yeah, after the ESL, there was all these promises and the kind of letter that came out, this grovelling letter that the Glazers put out. And then literally nothing happened for 12 months. Yeah. Nothing. And we was like, we're just a group of lads, we, like any, I'm sure you go to games with a similar group yourself, Keane. I know we know you do. And it was just like that. But there's a group of 20 or so lads. And we just thought, and I've said before, there comes a time in everyone's life where something's that important, where you feel you have to stand up and be counted and make a stand for something you believe in and love. So we thought, nobody else is doing it. How much longer can we leave this? How much longer can we wait to see if anything happens? And we could still be waiting now. Nothing would have happened if we wouldn't have come along and started to kind of, do something about it, So we wanted to kind of disrupt things, do things differently, be more consistent in how we do things. And, like a lot of things in life, the best things are quite almost luck, fortunate. Yeah, we're a group of lads who kind of go to football, but what we didn't appreciate was the kind of skills and how they complement each other. you know, kind of works of life, walks of life, what people are good at, what people aren't so good at. And we just blended really well. It was just pure luck how it all came together. But sometimes the best things in life happen like you can't plan those things. Yeah, so we just wanted to make a stand. You know, I've said before, you know, my love for the club comes from my granddad. And every time I head into that ground, I think of him. And I just feel the Glazers are just, you know, smearing memories of generations of people who instill the club into us. And that's what pushes us forward. So yeah, that's kind of a pure frustration out of ESL and, you know, a love for the club and the fact that we're with a group of lads that actually complement each other really well with some of the things we do.
Yeah, and look, and what I'd say about that is it's great to see, like, obviously that for a group of 20 lads to make something that's gone worldwide, and the fact that you're uniting the fan base. Now, obviously, we three of us all know it's hard to kind of unite everybody, but for a large majority, you've done that. And I think one thing that has to be commended is the consistency and the fact that, like, it's been very inclusive as well. Like, I'm from Ireland. I travel over to games quite regularly, so like I have friends in Manchester myself, and I go over to games and meet lads before the games and stuff. But it's great to see, like, even fans who can't go to games, that you've been inclusive with the online campaigns and stuff like that. And it's something I think definitely, like, and I know I'm going to ask about plans about the future later on, but it's definitely, if the Glazers do sell and do we get what we want, I would like you to see stay on, you know, like as a fan group in general, to help represent, you know, United fans so across the board. But yeah, look, it's good to see that you have been putting the pressure on, and the results are there when you look at the clubs. The club they've been taking notice these protests, and look, we've seen, you know, how much noise they've actually made recently.
The club are definitely they're definitely taking notice of the protest. Yeah, sorry, Matt, go on.
Yeah, of course. And I think just to add on to what you said about the formation of the group, you know, they attempted the ESL for a reason, which was basically why we are where we are now. Is the fact that they know they were struggling for money, and they didn't want to put the money into the club. So we looked at the finances when we decided to form this group, and we thought there really is trouble ahead. You know, they want this money for a reason. Now, Chelsea didn't need it for that reason. Manchester City didn't need it for that reason, but the Glazers needed it for the fact that they were going to come to where we are now, where the finances are that bad that, you know, you can't do the ground. You can't redevelop the ground. You can't redevelop the training facilities. And we don't normally like to talk about transfers, but look what's happening now. And we're Manchester United. We're Manchester United. And the reason we can't do that is the failings of the Glazer ownership over 18 years. That's why we can't do any of that. And they will not put their money in, and the huge amount there. So we knew that, for want of a better word, if we could create an environment that could reduce, not reduce, what's the word, dampen, maybe quell some of that growth, that revenue growth for them, they're going to be in trouble. So we've never said, you know, the reason that they've announced that they're looking for strategic alternatives or the reason that they're looking to sell is because of us. But we 100% know that we are a cog in that mechanism as to why they've come to this decision. And to be honest, we think from what we looked at and what we anticipated, and we think they came to it a little bit earlier than we anticipated, which was a bit of a shock for us. And, you know, we had to change our strategy up a little bit. But, you know, I'm glad it is. I'm glad we are where we are. I know there's a lot of frustration out there, but these kind of takeovers do take a bit of time. But I think we're getting to the point now where they need to communicate with the fans. They need to tell us where we are. They do not speak to the fan base. Even after the ESL, when he said we need a better engagement with the fans, complete lie. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. And that's very much, you know, the theme, one of the reasons for our protest tomorrow.
And if you look back, we talked about the sale there, weren't we? That was November. If you look back to last August, when we had the quite big Liverpool protest with 15,000 there, after some really shitty results, you know, we was kind of promoting the fact that, you know, we wanted to be United for sale, and we had United for sale banners in the kind of the way ends. I don't know if you've kind of seen those. The press were picking up on it. So it was great and a bit of a shock that by November did it actually announce that, because that was going to be kind of a mantra all the way through, to just try and get that noise out there that our club is in a mess and we want somebody to come along and put it for sale. And just to touch on another thing there about the kind of the fan base and inclusion, you know what the most ironic thing is, Keane? Our biggest strength and our biggest weakness are exactly the same thing. Our strength is the fan base, and our weakness is also the fan base. It's that diverse and hard to mobilise, and kind of apathy rules in a lot of ways. It's what the Glazers know and have always relied on. So, we've said since day one, the fan base in education is just as big a challenge as getting the Glazers out. And that's not to sound elitist, like we know, everything what's going on, but it's awareness and education around why and how the Glazers are ruining our club. And if you can get that message across, then people understand why you're doing actions, and people will join in, and people won't be as apathetic about things. So it's not just about the mismanagement of a football institution, which is, we all know too well what they've done. They're rotting away our history, dignity and integrity, and dragging the club through the mud. You've seen it in the last week. It's not just about signings, investment. It's about the standing our club has had in world football and the dignity and respect it should hold. And that is being absolutely wrecked.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And they've done so much to try tarnish our great football club and like the history and tradition we have. And look, I agreed. Like the ordeal that not just last week, but like the last couple of months with that situation, like it was dealt with horribly. And again, it's not a representation of what our football club stands for. And look, it's just another signal of how bad this ownership is and what they've done to like not only fracture the fan base, but disrespect the fan base, disrespect to the history and tradition of our club. And it's something that even when they leave, it's something that I think it'll take us a while, I think, to recover from this. Like, in terms of like some of the hardship that they have put this club through. And it's something that, look, for many, whether you're a match going fan or whether you're someone who gets up, at 1 o'clock in the morning abroad to watch a game, it's something that will hurt you. And it's something that, it shouldn't happen when you love a club.
No. Yeah. And if they went tomorrow, if they went tomorrow, our club and fan base, like you said, I agree, they would be scarred for generations. Yeah, we can heal, but those scars are always going to be there, but that the Glazers have left behind. And that's the level of damage this family have done to our club.
Yeah, and the fan base, because one of the reasons the fan base is like it is, there's a couple of reasons, going from becoming a PLC and before the Glazers, there were certain areas of the fan base, a lot of the fan base wasn't happy with that. And obviously with the Glazer takeover, a huge amount of the fan base wasn't happy with that. But over the 18 years, they've tried to morph this fan base into what they want it to be. They want it to be a franchise operation, and they've tried to achieve that over 18 years. And their issue is they've never quite achieved it, because there's always been that element of the match-going fan base and the international fan base that really understand what they are and what they're trying to do. But again, that causes a division, and they encourage that division as well, because it's a divide and conquer tactic. And that leads us to one of the points that we wanted to use when we started the group is social media, because they use social media to divide the fan base. They use it as a tactic. And we thought, okay, it's not going to be easy, because these guys are a monster, but we'll use social media, we'll use the tool that they laud so much to try and build something against them. And I think we've achieved that to a certain extent, but obviously they're a monster. They're a monster, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and they're horrible. Like, I hope, look, no one can take offense to this, but they're horrible people. Wherever about what they're doing in terms of business to our football club, they're actually just horrible people, and they show no emotion. And it's something that, look, quite frankly, it's disgusting. But we can't control what they do. But looking at kind of what you're doing as a group, I've attended numerous protests when I've come over from Ireland, and they've been quite a success. Tomorrow you're taking kind of a different approach with the protests tomorrow. It's your first 60-minute sit-in protests after the game. Just talk to us, I suppose, about tomorrow's protest and kind of how that came about. You're kind of changing the approach with kind of different style of protest tomorrow and kind of how that came about.
Yeah. Matt, do you want me to cover that, or do you want to go?
Yeah, no, I'll cover that. That's fine. So we opted for a 60-minute sit-in for a number of reasons. Obviously, we tried the 17-minute walkout. We tried the not going before 17 minutes, the not going before 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And even though, outside the ground, you could see there was thousands of people coming out, and when it was don't go in before 17 or 18 minutes, there was thousands of people outside. But in a vast stadium like Old Trafford, you're not going to see 3, 4, 5,000, empty seats that are spattered around a stadium that holds 75,000. So it was challenging, and obviously you've got everybody who wants you to empty Old Trafford. It's not going to happen. So we thought, right, okay, we need to test. We need to gauge the match-going fan base. We need to gauge where we are with the match-going fan base. So let's do something like a sit-in. So we chose a 3 o'clock kickoff because after the game, 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, we would see it as not too painful as opposed to a Champions League game or a Monday night football game. Yeah, but it's 10, 11 o'clock, you've got children, got to get back, travelling on coaches and things like that. To give people the best opportunities to support it, or take it, well, to be honest, to take away some of the excuses not to support it. Yeah? And also, depending on how this goes, it might, if it's a success, we may look at something a little bit bolder. So for us, it's gauging the match-going fan base, gauging their hunger to support this, gauging their desire to support and come together as a fan base to try and get this Glazer ownership out. Because you get 20,000 people stay behind for an hour tomorrow. And that goes, it's not on Sky and not on BT, but they don't show virtually nothing of our protest anyway. So it doesn't matter. But the game is being screened around the world.
Yeah.
And they will take notice. And we have trusted contacts now in the media that we speak to, and they will take notice for the UK media side. So it's a real opportunity to show the worldwide fan base and the sponsors and the club that we want a resolution. We want to know where we're up to, because the Glazers need to give us some idea of what they're doing, or give us a deadline for their decision. Or if they're not selling, tell us, because they're cowards. They should tell us, but they don't speak to the fan base, so we don't really expect anything different. But I think we're getting to that point now. You can tell their decision making, their indecisiveness, and the way they're running the club is literally running through the whole club from top to bottom now, even down to the playing staff. You can just tell. You can just tell it's a toxic club, and I think we're getting to a point now where the Glazers have ruined it enough. And tomorrow it's for the match-going fan base to come together and show them again that we've had enough and make it big. And depending on what it is like tomorrow, will be dependent on what we do next.
Yeah. And we're quite strategic and methodical in the 58 as well, King. So we kind of call it stepping stone to success. We have to. You can't just go from nothing to empty Old Trafford. You can't just go from
it has to be like staged process.
You've got to be staged, and you've got to be right. Have we got past that stage? Yes. Let's move on to something bigger. So we will be fearless, but we won't be stupid at the same time.
Yeah.
We've got to be pragmatic in what is achievable and what our fan base are prepared to actually do. So let's say the sitting goes, then we can move forward from there.
Exactly, and you know what, Keane? There's no failure for us tomorrow. And we know if there's 2,000 people there, we know for a fact there'll be more than 2,000 people there, because we know the hard work that we put in, and we know the support for certain groups that we have. So we as you're probably aware, we've had a strong allegiance with the TRA from virtually the beginning. So we know for a fact there'll be a certain level of fans there. But there is no failure for us, because all it does is shows us where we're at, where we're at for that. As Jack said, those steps to success. This just will show us just how far forward we are to try something a little bit bolder. And I don't think people understand that. I think people just sit there and think, it's rubbish because only 5,000 people came out. Or no, it's rubbish because only 5,000 people didn't go until the 17th minute. But we don't look at it like that. We look at it and say, right, that's 5,000 people. So how do we make that 10? How do we make that 15? There's no failure here. There's only learning. And once you learn, then you can develop, then you can push forward. So there's no failure here for us. It's down to the match-going fan base.
Yeah, I think worth mentioning as well, Keane. Sorry, I know you're trying to get a word in here. What we've actually we've done absolutely. It's probably the most planning and work we've put in, because it's kind of actually gone over 2 home games as well. And before the season started, we couldn't have done any more than what we've done as a group to actually make this as successful as possible. You know, we kind of covered it on that. We've done a couple of spaces. We kind of covered it a little bit on the space the other night. We've had like 10,000 leaflets done to try and social media doesn't translate to successful actions on the ground alone. You can't just bang a tweet out and think everything's just going to fall into place. It doesn't work like that. So we printed leaflets, distributed them at the ground to get to people who maybe aren't on social media. A lot of United fans aren't. We've distributed them all around the kind of United pubs around Trafford and Urmston. We've got TRA, we've contacted Must, we've spoke to journalists. We've kind of built our own kind of circle of trust up with certain journalists now who kind of support us, and we can kind of reach out to them as well. We spoke to media outlets. We're probably some radio stuff coming out tomorrow during news bulletins as well. We've done everything we can to get the message out, and that's all we're asking. We just want to try and unify and feel everybody like they're inclusive of what we're trying to do, and understand what this family have done and are still doing to our club.
And for people to give a shit, Keane, and for people to give a shit, because if people give a shit, they'd be out quicker than they are now. That makes sense. And maybe we should let you ask a question now, Keane. So we're going to show up.
Yeah, but look, what you've done is like it's great that the fact that you've done it in a staged way, and it's been consistent, and there's planning, and you can see the results behind that with the amount of traction that's happening. The fact that you have people within the club handing out leaflets, you have the respected journalists, giving you coverage. Like I'm seeing all the different media companies out there at the minute, like pages on whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or any other social media outlet. You're seeing 1958 and the protests still gathering traction, and the club see this. The owners eventually will see this. And the thing about this is, like you both mentioned, is they haven't communicated. They do not give a shit about this football club. And the fact of the matter is, even the Rain Group right now are getting pissed off with them because they're like holding up the sale process. So like you look at how these people deal with other human beings. They don't treat humans with respect, and they don't treat the business that they own with any respect whatsoever. And the fact that people are expecting people to empty Old Trafford straight away, that's never going to happen. It's not feasible, and you're both right. It's just there's 75,000 people. There's families, children, you name it. There, it's hard to do that straight away. But like you said, with a sit-in protest, you're doing it on a 3:00 kickoff tomorrow. It's a very sociable time, for people to attend that. It's a very you look at the different protests you've had, the Liverpool game, you look at all the different times last season where it was lashing rain, snowing, you name it. There was, all different situations, and the match going fan base have stuck by that, and they've kept going. So look, I think as the people in the comments are saying right now, you have our support. Whether it's someone that's from Manchester, whether it's someone from Dublin, or whether it's someone sitting in Australia watching it in a different time zone, it really doesn't matter. And people do support this movement. And I just think right now it has to keep going. And the fact that you're keeping it going right now, and the fact that it is this is a group of fans, and the match going fan base in general, this is people who have jobs outside of supporting United. These are people who have their own livelihoods, and the fact that people are doing this with their own time for the club they love, for their livelihood, it's something that, look, I think it can bring fans together. And even when this is all over, I think unity is definitely something that we should be striving for always. And I think it's something that hopefully when the Glazers leave, we do see more of.
Yeah, well said, Keane. And again, we've said this, it's all about integrity, kind of authenticity and being genuine to us. It's something we value a lot in the 58. You've probably heard us mention it a lot of the times because it's core, it's central to everything we do and everything we think about. We've got, we're strong family people, we've got morals, we've got good work ethics, we love the club. And you know what? It has to be like that. We have to build up credibility and trust. Certainly from where we started 18 months ago, nothing. We started from literally nothing. There's 20 lads in a WhatsApp group with no account, no nothing. That's where we started from. No followers, no nothing. Nobody knew us. Nobody knew what we were about, what we stood for. And we did say right back then, if you even go back to probably one of the first few tweets, we said right back then that over time we will earn the trust and respect of the fan base. And that's what we're always striving to do, because that's how we will unify people. If the people believe in what you're doing and trust what you're doing, let's be honest, there's a lot of accounts out there, there's a lot of people out there who do nothing but try to ride on the back of United fans. Yeah. We're not about that. We just want to get our club back and do the right thing. Like I said, to kind of protect memories of family. We don't want to betray those memories because we'd just be betraying what we are and what we're all about. So well said.
And look, I can relate to that myself. My mother grew up in a family full of Liverpool fans, and my mother was just mesmerised by Manchester United. And I was named after Keane, and I feel absolutely disgusted now. When I see I see people out there. You mentioned accounts, and you mentioned how negative social media and certain, let's say, fan media outlets are. We're not going to name them, but we all know who they are and what they do in terms of riding off the coattails of doing negativity. It makes me sick. And for me, I want, when I have a child, I want to bring my own flow to Old Trafford. I want that to be generational for me, for my family. And when you see people like the Glazers trying to take that away, with obviously the way they've taken money out of the club, how they've damaged the club, how they've tried to ruin our history and tradition, when they tried to do the Super League and all other stuff. It's things like that for me. It's disgusting, and I just want to look at the future United, and like you said, you've present, you've past, present, and hopefully future United fans who carry on that tradition of what the football club really means. And look, I just hope even after this, when this situation hopefully ends, whether it's a couple of months' time or whatever it is, that we do see a light at the end of the tunnel, because I think that's something we do need to see.
I think, exactly, Keane. And I think Phil Brown, I read a piece that he put on Twitter or whatever. Yeah. I spoke to him and he said it himself. He wants to be in a moment where he doesn't feel ashamed to go into the megastore and buy his children a shirt.
Yeah,
he doesn't want to feel ashamed of going onto the concourse and buying some food and drink for his children. Do you know what I mean? He wants to be able to do that, just as a joyous memory with his children. But and people do that. You're going to buy your children, football tops and things like that. You can't be good to children in those memories. But it still doesn't change that inside. You feel guilty for doing it because you know where that money's going to. And we want to be in a place where that's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And we all want to go back to be able to just walk down St Matt Busby Way and just enjoy talking about the game, talking about the team, and just enjoy the experience of going to Old Trafford. That's where we want to be, but we're not there. We're not there, and this family is. One of our banners, history, dignity, integrity. You stole it all, and they have, and the last week or two with the Mason Greenwood situation, and the way the club has dealt with that, and the way Richard Arnold has dealt with that, has been, the most recent, but not the first incident of the club acting in this kind of fashion, and it's down to the ownership, and it's enough. It's just killing the fan base. It's just draining people's love for the club, and you know what? It has to stop, and that's why we got one of our banners. We made one of our banners to illustrate that, because they have done that. They have done that, and you want to be able to go. You want to be able to take your children there. It's for the future generations as well. And we've always said this. You want to take your children there, your grandchildren there, and just enjoy the experience of being a Manchester United fan and watching the team. And as each day goes by, that becomes harder and harder to love this football club. It really does.
Yeah. And what other fans from other clubs, Keane, right, have to be experts in geopolitics, finance, legal. We're having to think about whether to buy stuff. Feeling guilty about buying things, even a packet of crisp on the concourse. No other fans have to think about that and have that guilty feeling. You just want to watch the team kick a ball from one end to the other, and and get some points and have a laugh with the mates. But we've got all this other stuff around it.
And it's correct, and there's still lots of United fans that do that. There's still lots of United fans that do that, but then they'll go to the toilet and stand in an inch of piss because the toilets are broke. Do you know what I mean? Or there's something dripping from the ceiling, or they've got to move because they're getting wet because it's dripping. Do you know what I mean? So it's subconsciously still there. Because if you go to other stadiums, and I'm not saying that we need to knock Old Trafford down and build it again, because that's not what I'm saying, but it's just representative of the Glazer ownership over 18 years of where we are now, and it needs to change. It needs to change.
100%. I agree with both of you. And look, Old Trafford was state of the art. It really was, and the fact they've let it to fall away and they haven't repaired it. And look, like you said, feeling guilty about buying a packet of crisps or a bag of jellies or a bottle of Coke in the stadium. That's what they've done to this fan base, and that's just manipulation, at its finest. We've a question in, guys, from Jonathan about tomorrow's protest. He says, do you guys expect resistance from the stewards after the game trying to force the fans out?
You want to call that?
I in some quarters I do. So what you got to remember is you've got stewards and security at Old Trafford. So they're two different things. Personally, I don't think you'll get any resistance from any of the stewards because they've been doing the job a long time and they'll understand completely what's going on. Whether you have any resistance from security, that's down to probably the individual security person or group that allocate to that area. We've checked the terms and conditions of your tickets and season tickets. There's no timescale for you to leave that seat. So we would expect the club to respect what they've always said, and that is they respect the Manchester United fans to protest peacefully. So I would say that you speak to the steward and you say or the security say, look, I'm joining the protest and I'm within my rights to do that, and there shouldn't be any issue. If you do have an issue, film it and send it to us, because
that's how we actually
that'd be great.
That agreement, wasn't it? Because there was taking flags and banners from people in the ground, and that is how Arnold and the club had to release that statement through filming and pressure.
Yeah, because we kicked up such a fuss about all the standing in the way of Glazers out banners and flags and taking them and confiscating them. There was Alex Neil had his Glazer flag taken out from his section of of TRA, and it's just a typical example of the Glazers wanting to show the worldwide fan base that everything's rosy in the garden, and it really isn't. But then you've got to ask yourself, the question is, why are they doing that? If it isn't bothering them, why are they doing it? Because it is. And even Arnold admitted that on camera at the pub. And we said it again and again and again, and people forget it. But, that's just like rocket fuel for us. You've got the CEO of the club saying that protests have an impact on the club. Great. It's great for us.
They do. And the fact of the matter is, they're trying, I've seen it, even living here abroad. You see the fact that they're censoring everything, whether it's on Sky, TNT, or BT, whatever it's called now these days, or whether it's on Premier Sport, whatever other broadcaster it is, they're censoring it. And then the club, people try to say the protests don't make a difference, but they absolutely do. Whether it's a banner, whether it's outside the ground, whether it's you're walking from the toll gate down to Old Trafford, these things make a difference, and these things show, that. If you work hard enough, your voice will be heard. And the club know it. Three of us sitting here, we know that the club are bothered about it, as well, most especially the owners. And look, it's something that it's going to continue whether they like it or not until they fuck off. It's simple as that.
Yeah, and the most despicable one they've done is probably the Casemiro unveiling. That was just something else. If you're in the ground, I think that was exactly, mate. Yeah, that was I think that was the Liverpool game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, if you're in the ground, massive Glazer out chance going out while Casemiro's coming out, and massive. It was all around the ground. But you watched the video that United's PR team put out. It was I can't remember what was playing now. It was United, something like that. Yeah, they basically dotted out all the Glazers out chants and put their own overlay their own audio on it. And if you're watching that and you're not at the game, you just think that's what's happened, and it's absolutely despicable. And that's that history, that's the dignity and integrity of the club. Then they're the levels that the club are going to try and like Matt says, make it look like everything is great when it's not.
Yeah, they're trying to paint a different picture that completely isn't there. And look, it's something again, like they're just manipulative bastards. That's what they are. My final question for you lads, just in terms of the future of 1958 and plans. Like obviously, like look, I know it's a hypothetical question I'm kind of asking right now, but let's say the Glazers do sell, and let's say whoever it is, whether it's Jim Ratcliffe, Rinios, or Sheikh Jassim, or from Qatar, or whoever like the prospective owner could potentially be. Obviously, we have the TRA and we have people like Must, and we have obviously supporters clubs, branches, whether it's all across the UK or Ireland or wherever. Will the 1958 kind of stay as kind of a fan group, let's say outside of protests, maybe help fans with like stuff like ticketing or any other issues that may surround the club?
Matt, do you want to go there? No, jump in? Or...
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay. I think I said this earlier in the week when we got asked a very similar question. And I think what you got to remember is we are still 20 lads, 20 Manchester United fans. And, our focus is Glazers out. And no matter what's gone on at the club, and there's been some pretty bad stuff that's gone on over the last few weeks, we need to keep the focus on what the main goal is. And the symptom, and the real reason why all this is happening to our club is at the top, and it's the Glazers. Yeah. So our focus is just about getting, hoping that they sell the club and doing things that will impact them financially and visually to the fan base to help them speed up that process of getting out the club. And we put a lot into that, and a lot of other people, not just us 20 lads. There's a lot of people that help us out in the fan base. They put a lot of time into it. So at the moment, we just focus on that. And obviously, I can see people saying, look, there's probably a lot more you guys can do for us as a fan base. So a lot of people don't feel like they're represented properly. And, I always think accountability is a good thing. And I think healthy competition is a good thing. I think if you don't have either of those things, then you can get stale, and I think, they could be things that we look at post the 58, because if the Glazers sell, we've always said the 58, that's it, we're done.
Yeah.
As that kind of entity is the 1958. But I also I've mentioned this before as well. When we put a group of people like this together, and then you are trying to build these relationships, and then what you need to do is do research and then dig deeper, and then you go under the skin, under the paintwork, and you start to understand that there's some real shitty issues with both the club and the fan base, and certain elements of what makes it the environment what it is now. Yeah. And there's some really shit stuff in there, Keane, and we'll probably let people know about that when the time is right. But there is things that need probably looking at, and probably there's elements of accountability that needs to be asked for, and there might be something for us post, the 58. But at the moment, we're just concentrating on that. We need to just stay focused about,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a question. Tunnel vision. That's what we need to be. And we said before, we don't, believe it or not, consider ourselves a fan group. All we do is really we just want to kind of be that springboard and facilitate and help fans to have a voice against these owners, because they feel the same way we do. And we're kind of looking at Moss, there's kind of a conflict of interest there at the core. You can't be on the side of the fans and against its ownership at the same time, and walk that line with the club and owners. It's a line that just cannot be walked. It doesn't do either side of that line justice. We've had some dialogue with Must and kind of limited support from them, really, but fantastic from TRA, but not so much more. Yeah. So, we've got some plans to kind of work around this issue, to kind of be more targeted and be productive with protests. So yeah, that's probably something that's going to be working on once we get Forest out of the way. But if we see a blocker in the way or a problem in the way, we try to find a solution for it.
Yeah, look, it's a question I've wanted to ask, because like I was talking on the podcast months ago I say this around after the World Cup when the sale, well, not the sale, but the sale took, like, when they announced that either investment or a full sale was going to happen. And it's something I said is, like, when you have a group like this that's after mobilising fans, it'd be great to see you work with fan groups or even supporters clubs, branches, that are across England and wherever else. Like, look, it's something, I think, obviously people, you have your own jobs, you have your own lives and stuff like that. And obviously, like you said, it's a group of 20 lads. But I think, look, one thing I'd say just, like, before I wrap up, lads, is, look, just keep going and keep doing what you're doing, because you're clearly making, a stand. You're sending a message. And, like, again, like we've said in this podcast before, it's the fact that you've been inclusive, not only just for the match goer, but also people who mightn't have a chance to get to Old Trafford. And I think that's something that's very important. And again, like we three of us said, it's hard to unite everybody, but I think it's great that you've kind of made that stand. And it's something that, look, I hope, look, whilst they're still in charge, that's something like that continues and it stays relentless the way it is. But just before I finish, do you want to send just a final message out to the listeners just on the 58 and tomorrow's protest?
Yeah, but I'd probably like to run over the details again. Obviously, it's at the final whistle, it's stay in your seat, and it's a protest against the Glazer ownership again. And we want to understand where we are. They need to tell us what's going on. To use one of Must's quotes from earlier in the week, we feel like they're keeping the fan base and the club hostage, and they need to tell us. We need a resolution. So, and everything else that's going on with where the Greenwood situation has been handled, just use your voice. Just stay in the ground for 60 minutes and use your voice. So once the final whistle goes, stay in your seat. And what we've also asked, and we put this tweet out today, is, when the final whistle goes and the people that are going, and you're there and you're the protesters in there, come together. Come to the front of your respective stand. Come together into the centre and be a group of Manchester United fans together and join in. Get your flags up. Get singing along with us. Make your voices heard. But come together at the front of your respective stands, because visually it's more impactful. Vocally it's more impactful. And it's a good visual for what we're trying to do, which is to show the sponsors, the owners, the club, and the worldwide fans that are watching this game that, United fans are really pissed off, and they've had enough.
Yeah, and somebody said it on one of, I think, the space we did this week, and we knew this anyway. But this is a window of opportunity now. While they're in this sales process, we have to make the most of it. They've not sold the club yet. We don't know what they're doing with it. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't be complacent. Make sure you do everything you can. We say as a group, as long as we can look ourselves in the mirror afterwards and be, kind of proud of all the efforts we've, leave no stone unturned, be proud of what we've actually done, and look ourselves in the mirror, then we're happy with that. And every fan should feel the same way. Don't miss this window in time, because you know what they like. One of your lads, Keane, could be in 20 years. Talking about the Glazers. We don't want that, mate. We want them out. Let's get our fucking club back, and we need everybody on board with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I echo everything the lads have said up on that. But look, we will wrap it up there, guys. Thanks very much to both of you for coming on, giving me your time this evening to come on and talk about this. And look, just keep doing what you're doing and keep fighting the good fight for our football club. But I will drop the 1958's details, the protest details will be in the video link description as well, and also their links to their social media accounts, whether it's Facebook or Twitter as well. And they do check out 1958's Twitter page, especially because all the protest details are constantly on there and all the updates are there as well. So do check that out as well. And always, look, we do appreciate your support listening in weekly as well, guys. But thanks very much to Jack and Matt coming on. Until then, guys, we'll see you later.
Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to buy a stake in Manchester United with a view to taking full control.
Sheikh Jassim has submitted a 5th improved bid for Manchester United.
Got 24 million quid out of the club about 2 months ago. We've got now a decrepit, rotting stadium. You've got a football project where they haven't got a clue.
This challenge incites conflict. Conflict means catastrophe.
There has been a report yesterday suggesting the Glazers are pausing the takeover.
These owners, since Sir Alex Ferguson, have proven in 10 years they cannot manage a forward-thinking football club. We're now seeing what's happening, and it's a mess, and it cannot continue to go on.